Hey guys, Triple B here. We've just concluded the 5th week of the first season of the Budget Build Battle Tournament. And if this is the first time you're hearing about this format and you decided to click on this video, well, hey, welcome to the community. And first off, I'll give you a quick run through of what Budget Build Battles are. It's a single prize format for the Pokemon TCG, and tournaments are run over on Limitless. So that means no EXs, no Vs. We also do no rulebox in general. So A-Specs and Radiance also, get them out of there. None of that nonsense. It's all about these single prize cards and just finding a home for them to shine. Top 8 decks of this week, though, we are seeing a very interesting mill list with the Wug Trio, living that Wug life X Factor, making it into the top 8. So it has Undersea, Tunnel, 3 colorless energy. You're going to flip 3 coins. Each one that's ahead lets you discard the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck. Kind of aggressive, and in a format where you can only have 2 copies of a card with the same name, milling them, well, you can really ruin someone's day. Also, the fact that you're not taking any knockouts will mean you're falling behind on prizes, so things like reversal energy and counter catcher will be online very easy, meaning you can charge up Wug Trio with potentially just 1 energy per turn and gust something up into the active that's going to have a hard time getting it out of the active and putting your opponent in a very awkward spot. It's not the only mill card in there though. They do also have Comfy that has Flower Shower. Each player is going to draw 3 cards for just 1 psychic energy, which isn't quite milling your opponent, but does make them, well, go through their deck a little bit faster. And when you combine that with supporter cards like Xyrosix Machinations, makes your opponent discard their hand down to 3 cards, it's a little aggressive. Like, milling their deck's great, but also making them have a very big hand, and then making them have a very, very, very small hand, might as well just be milling them. Also seeing the rodent combo in here, Bibarel and Squovit, for some amazing draw power. The rest of the cards I feel like are kind of just standard control shenanigans at this point, but if you have any questions, let me know in the comments down below. In 7th place, we are seeing my deck that I ran this week that I called Moosin Around. So we are, over a month into the first season and kind of been playing like pseudo-competitive stuff, and then this week I was like, nah, let's play something a little bit silly. So I tried out Ting-Lu. It's got the attack Ground Crasher, 1 fighting energy to do 30 damage to the active Pokemon, but if you have a stadium, well, if not even you, if your opponent has one in play either, long story short, if there's a stadium in play, you're going to discard it and do 30 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon in play. So effectively spread 30 damage for 1 fighting energy as long as you meet those conditions. Did run high counts of stadiums to make sure we're doing it. So 2 Gape Shot Bog, 2 Lost City, 2 Artisan, and even a Jamming Tower. So 7 stadiums in the deck. You're going to be finding them pretty easy. Artisan helping you set up your bench. Lost City to potentially take out something like a Manaphy. So if your opponent's trying to protect their bench, we just go, well, like Dusknoir, knock it out, or Dusclops, put 5 onto it. Monkey Dory, come down onto the bench when the Gape Jaws in play, take 2 damage counters, Luminous onto it so it can move those counters onto their Manaphy. Lost City, replace the Gape Jaw Bog. Good. A little tricky to pull it off, but we can get there. Also having Counter Catcher and Canceling Kelowna in here though, at high counts of 2, so if Manaphy is on the board, it's just like gust it up, spritz it with Cologne, you're fine. So there's a couple ways to get around it and just ensure we are punishing their bench. Hawlucha to put out some damage counters to help fix up some numbers. Obviously putting 30 damage onto things, it's good, but there's a lot of basic Pokemon that have 70 HP, so having Hawlucha to help fix those up. So it's like Hawlucha, 2 attacks from Ting-Lu, wipe their board. Good? Yeah. And then the Dusclops we did talk about, Monkey Dory we talked about, Bibarel, you guys are very familiar with it, and obviously Spread being a little scary, we are running Manaphy of our own, and a Jirachi just to help out against basic Pokemon putting out damage counters like Sableye. Rest of the cards in here though, I feel like are pretty standard staples for the format. Any questions though, never hesitate to ask. In 6th place, we are seeing Rasper, who ran a Lucario Bloodmoon Ursaluna deck. So Lucario having Roaring Resolve lets you put 2 damage counters on it to search your deck for a fighting energy and attach it onto it. Its attack Aura Sphere Volley, needing 2 fighting energy to get it off, means that you could just attach one more time onto this to be able to attack. You're going to do 60 damage for each energy card on it. You're going to discard all those though. So effectively it does 120 damage, but ramping up from there, and you can just be using this ability turn after turn to just gradually build up the energy on it and your damage output. The main attacker in here though being the Bloodmoon Ursaluna, whose ability Battle Hardened lets you attach 2 fighting energy from your hand when you play this onto the bench. So you still have the attachment for turn, chuck a fighting energy on it, and you're good to go. You can start attacking doing 100 damage with Mad Bite, or 30 more damage for each damage counter your opponent has on their active. So as long as you're putting out a little bit of pressure on your opponent, you can be doing a lot of damage into them. So of course, having Monkey Dory in this list as well. Dark Energy on there, you can be moving 30 damage from one of your guys onto one of your opponent's guys, meaning that Ursaluna is getting a 90 damage boost into them. So effectively, Monkey Dory with this, you can be hitting 190 pretty consistently as long as you find ways to get counters onto them. There isn't a lot of ways to get damage counters onto your own guys, so it's kind of reliant on your opponent hurting you. Like there's no Gape-Jaw Bogs or Calamitous Blizzard, so it's kind of just like, hey, Ursaluna, eat a hit, Monkey Dory, give it back to them, Ursaluna, hit them harder. Lucario, though, does take damage, so once you get this set up, you do have that as a bit of an output for some counters, only taking 2 though, so Monkey Dory hands them off. You're going to be putting an extra 60, so 160 with Ursaluna. Does make it a pretty interesting combo, so I can respect that. Something I'm not noticing in here, though, is Energy Switch, or potentially even something like a Poppy, just to move counters from Lucario onto Ursaluna, or vice versa. It would be an interesting card to see, but obviously the list is running quite tight, so I can understand why it didn't make the cut. In 5th place, we are seeing Saveed, who brought Annihilate. So its attack, Rage Fist, is going to do 70 more damage for each prize card your opponent's taken. So kind of like Charizard EX, but in a single prize format. And just 1 energy to use the attack, so you don't really need the ability to rush energy out, since it's just like, 1 energy, I'm good. And I love it. Honestly, really cool card. To make it so they are giving up some prizes and putting out some pressure, of course, seeing the Dusknoir line in here. So you can knock it out, put 13 damage counters onto something, potentially taking a prize with it, and boosting Annihilape's damage output. Not too bad. Go down 1 prize, you're doing 70, so you're taking out a pre-evolution, or play something like Grant to boost up your fighting damage, or your fighting Pokemon's damage output by 30, meaning just 1 prize down, you can be doing 100. Not a bad number to hit. Most likely, though, you're going to be trying to knock out 2 Dusclops or Dusknoir to get Annihilate up to 140, and then it's just going to snowball from there. So honestly, really cool list. Love seeing this. They are also including a Defiance Band just as another way to pump up their damage output when they're going behind on prizes with the Dusknoirs. So yeah, you did some cooking, Savid. You did some really good cooking. In 4th place, we are seeing Urban Nomad also running the Bloodmoon Ursaluna, but not as the main attacker. Honestly, so I don't think it was the main attacker in this one. No, I'm getting the decks confused. I saw someone running a Slowking. It's not this one though. Bloodmoon Ursaluna being the main attack, or one of the main attackers in this deck. So same kind of mindset. Bench it, attach 2 energy to it, attach for turn. This build though does have some ways to get damage counters onto your own board. So Gape-Jaw Bog, you bench it, you take 2 damage when you do. Monkey Dory can hand them off, but it also means your opponent's benching things that they're taking damage. Ursaluna is doing more damage into them. Nice. They also have Calamitous Snowy Mountain. Whenever any player attaches an energy to a basic non-water Pokemon, they're going to take 2 damage. So you bench the Ursaluna, and then yeah, you're attaching 2 energy from hand to it for the ability. You're taking 40. Attach 1 to it, you're taking 60. A little bit risky. Does also mean that Monkey Dory can then just hand off those counters, and it also means the vice versa effect will apply. If your opponent's attaching energy to a basic non-water Pokemon, they're taking damage, and Ursaluna is ramping up its output. Another attacking line in here being the Medicham has Acupuncture. I've got to say, just great pun there. Does a little bit of damage into your opponent, but makes it so that you're going to pick one of their attacks and you just say you can't use that during your next turn. There's a lot of Pokemon in this format that just have 1 attack they want to be setting up into, and you're going to make them have to really work. Like, for example, Ursaluna only has 1. Torterra, we see played week after week, only has 1. Lost Box, all their guys only have 1 attack. You can kind of just lock them out and just be like, you need to switch out or you're doing nothing into me. Not bad. Does have a second attack on their Kick Shot. You're going to flip a coin. If it's tails, it's going to do nothing. You do 90 damage if it's heads though, so it's all right for a little bit more pressure, but I feel like it's mostly in here for the Acupuncture attack. Luxray also showing up. If this Pokemon's in your hand when you're setting up to play it, you can put it down as your active Pokemon. Seeking Fang for 1 colorless energy does 50 damage and lets you search your deck for 2 trainer cards to put into your hand, adding amazing consistency and giving you 160 HP, effectively basic Pokemon you can be starting the game with. That's pretty big. And the consistency of getting supporters while putting out damage, not bad either. Kyurem also showing up in the list, meaning if your opponent has any Colress in their discard pile, you can be using Triforce for 1 energy. and doing 110 to 3 things in play. If you pair into Lost Box, you're in a pretty good spot. Not seeing any canceling cologne here though, so it's not like you'd be able to gust up the Manaphy, spritz it with some cologne, and then spear 3 things off their board. But if you are in a position where you're able to just like boss it, KO it, and then get this play off the following turn, you're in a pretty good position. Honestly, I love seeing this list, Nomad, and keen to see how you work on it in the future tournaments, because I feel like this is one of those lists that, like, with some refinement, will be absolutely dominated in the format and already making the top 4 this week, so proven concept. In third place, we are seeing Amir, who is running the Slowking. Apologies, I did get the list confused and reference some stuff from this one when talking about that first one. Similar attackers here though. We're seeing the Bloodmoon Ursaluna. It can be used as an attacker by benching it with the fighting energy, attaching for turn, and you're good, but you can also be copying it with Slowking. So its attack Seek Inspiration lets you discard the top card of your deck. If it's a Pokemon that doesn't have a rule box, which there's none of those in this format, so if it's a Pokemon, you get to pick one of its attacks, discard the Pokemon, but you get to use the attack. And you could be copying Bloodmoon Ursaluna's attack, could be copying Terrakian's attack, Cavern Tackle, which does 120, and during your opponent's next turn, all damage from attacks is just ignored on this Pokemon, so effectively you're making Slowking invincible. You could copy Kyurem. You don't even have to worry about like, oh, do they have Chorus in the bin? It's just like, oh, I discarded this, I'm just going to use Trifrost. So that's pretty sick. And you can even copy Crobat to do Critical Bite. It's going to do 30 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon, and if it takes a KO, you're going to take 2 extra prizes. So soften something up, then finish it off with Crobat's attack. Not too bad. Taking a 3 prize KO in a single prize format is honestly busted. Like effectively, as you use Kyurem, take 3 prizes, use this, take 3 prizes, game. Scary. The Slowking though, having a slightly awkward attack cost, being a a psychic and a colorless, you do have Xatu to help accelerate some energy onto it, as well as Crispin. So Crispin, search your deck for 2 energies of different types, being your psychic and your fighting, attach one, the other one goes to your hand, and then you just manually attach it, so you have a few ways to get your Slowkings charged up. Honestly, really like this list. Amir, you also did some top tier cooking this week, so yeah, keen to see if you run it back with this in the North American special event tomorrow. And in second place, we are seeing Manuel running a Lost Box featuring Porygon. So Porygon's garbage attack does 20 damage for each Pokemon tool in your Lost Zone. Obviously, Lost Box, you want to be Lost Zoning a lot of things. A lot of these tools, it's kind of just like, hey, if I see this off Comfy, like if Comfy sees Crisis Punch or Blindside or Devolution TM, half the time it's like, well, that's going in the Lost Zone and I'm going to keep my Sableye, or I'm going to keep my Energy, or I'm going to keep my Cramorant. And it just makes it an easy decision while also powering up a secondary attacker for in the late game. You do have Sableye though, just lost mine, absolutely broken attack. Jirachi does block it. Not a lot of people are running it though, so Sableye can kind of just like run rampant once you get it set up, and Cramorant for some early game pressure. Another nice thing about having these tool cards is you could chuck a Vengeful Punch onto them. So like Cramorant, it's doing 110 into something that has 150 HP. It's like, well, I'm just shy of taking a knockout. Oh, but if you hit me back, well, I take a knockout now. So like we're trading. And same with the Sableye. Like maybe you're setting up counters and you're a little bit shy. Well, Vengeful Punch helps you get there. So yeah, really cool list. Kind of just standard Lost Box stuff for the most part, but the exception being the Porygon line in here, and then adding in the tools to boost up its damage. And in first place, we are seeing MWDC running it with the Hisuian Arcanine Frostlass combo. So this isn't anything new to the format, but it's a good list. Like it's just one of those things that it's tried and tested and true. Arcanine obviously having Proud Fangs. Base damage, not great, 30 damage. Doesn't need an energy to use it though, and if any of your bench Pokemon are damaged, you're gonna do 90 more. So effectively 120 for 0 energy. Frostlass damaging everything with abilities means your Monkey-Dories are taking some pings, your Bibarels are taking some pings. If you want to bench a Snorlax to buy you some time in the early game, having this slapped in the active, your opponent's struggling, it's taking a bit of damage from your Frostlass while your Frostlass is softening up their bench, and then eventually you get Arcanine set up, you move this to the bench, Arcanine's doing more damage. Because this is beat up a little bit, good times. Emolga also being in here has Skywave, 10 damage, and does 10 to each bench Pokemon, yours and the opponent's. So it's another great way to put a little bit of pressure into opponents so that Frostlass will soften them up with its ability later on, and this is put pressure, so you could kind of play it as a spread deck, but at the same time, hurting your own bench to trigger Arcanine's additional damage requirement. So yeah, really good card in here. Basculin for Gather the Crew to help you establish your board. and Cleffa, just to help you establish your hand and have a free retreat option. Obviously a little risky running Cleffa with Monkey Dories running around as much as they are. If it's ever in a position where it has 3 damage counters to play around with, this is kind of just a free prize, but in the early game, it's just such a clutch Pokemon to be able to go into, so respect it being in here. Honestly, really cool list, and congrats MW on taking it home tonight. Really cool. And yeah, if you guys like these deck lists or cooking up something completely different, let me know which one you like the most or what you would bring to the next tournament. We do host these every Friday night in Australian Central Time, as well as the first Friday of every month for those of you in North America, just to make it a little bit more time zone friendly, because I know the Australian tournaments, it's like 5, 6 in the morning for you guys, so it's a little tricky to turn out. But yeah, the North American special event will be on tomorrow, so very keen to see how everyone goes with that. Also, we do have people always looking for matches in the Discord, so if you're keen to try out the format but can't make it to the tournaments, there's always that option for you too. I'm kind of just rambling though. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button to let me know, and subscribe to keep up with the shenanigans. But till next time, stay golden, you Goombas.